Alright, time to minimize you. Start with... Oh, what is going on here? Huh. Okay, welcome to the show. This is Hot Democracy Summer with your host, DC Shepherd, as I attempt to navigate the absolute craziness that is currently on display in our society today. Um, and the craziest thing that has happened, obviously, is the debate, which now there's no chat. Great. Well, anyway, look, I don't think there's any changing that Biden's performance at the debate was not great, to say the least. I hope he has a long retirement after winning a second term. And it would be better if he was 40, but I remember that 5-year-old me wanted to run for president as badly as Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. said that he did to his nun when he was that age. But when this little kid was deterred by a book on assassinations that my parents got me about all the presidents who had been assassinated, um, that probably also helped me dodge the metaphorical bullet of social media scrutiny of a presidency for every little thing, with very little credit being given, and people thinking that you can just fix everything. I would not have wanted to be president of the United States now, and I don't know how he does any of it at such a breakneck pace at 81. Of course, that's the latest thing that Democrats are in disarray about, while I want to focus on the past 3.5 years of his administration and the dark 4 years that lie ahead of us if Joe Biden's ticket isn't the one to come out on top. That's an important distinction I'll make later. But for now, I picked American Truck Simulator to play tonight because I want the infrastructure that connects us and that Biden has made great efforts in improving, some of the greatest since the New Deal, to be the backdrop here. I'll admit, however, that this is a longer version of an old vote blue no matter who open mic speech going to bat for Biden that I made a few weeks ago. The original version got booed by a pro-Palestinian protester. That was not fun, but it was otherwise well received, I think. Some likely MAGA troll also commented later online trying to use ad hominems to win the argument. Oh, sorry about your garbage can. um, because basically this troll argued that because 3 people in all of American history have ever been elected while dead by the Democrats or something like that, um, that must mean that Democrats just blindly vote by party, which that's not connected, first of all. And second of all, it voting blue no matter who this time does not mean that I want to just blindly support the party in everything going forward. Uh-oh. Ooh, trailer damage. I don't know how anybody does this job for real either. All of the different things that can go wrong and the long hours. I think I'll be there in, let's see. Oh no! Darn. I keep getting fined for all sorts of different things. I wonder why. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, the job has 29 hours 14 minutes left, so I should be able to go along at a steady pace and not get fined for breaking traffic laws in this game. At least, anyway. Um, so basically, because of this one random claim that seems to bring down all the Democrats, I guess, um, he called me Delulu and having a laundry list of educational issues for being autistic in a way he didn't like. Anyway, I have expanded on this speech in response to the debate and the critics. I also will admit that I was a bit worried that he had a cold during the debate, But I didn't realize the bit about President Biden's mouth hanging open because I was so dumbfounded at just the amount of lies coming from his convicted felon opponent's annoying puckered hole of a mouth. I'll get to those in a minute as well. That I thought Biden was just as stunned as we all were. Lastly, let me read you an accidental poem I made. My initial comments to friends and family that sum up my feelings here. Trump's sentences are kinda followable, and Biden seems old, but smart. Anyway, what exactly happened to President Biden? And why did the convicted felon who was allowed to be up there for some reason win, quote unquote, when he's been slurring his words, made gaffes like documentary filmmaker up there, um, and has mixed up Nancy Pelosi with Nikki Haley and World War II with 3? A common mistake when your peace plan in Ukraine is letting your buddy Putin do whatever he wants. My guess is Biden had a combination of being overloaded with statistics for a week straight at Camp David by 18 staffers, a cold he may have gotten there, and apparently makeup that made him look paler after he got a tan during an earlier rally, which is probably going to go on the level of epic fail, similar to Richard Nixon getting all caked up with makeup um, on hot TV lights in 1960. And the other thing is that it was kind of later at night, which is a normal part of aging that is concerning. Like, it's a little concerning that the President of the United States is fading towards the evening, because that's when the debate was scheduled. Like, I don't know what they'll do for September to make that better, but they have to if he's going to stay in. Anyway, anyway, if Trump did interrupt, I didn't hear it due to CNN's magical invention of the mute button, which probably helped him as well in this debate, because there were two people debating. It wasn't just Biden, it was also Trump being able to get away with stuff that I'll call him out for here. I'm sure he wanted to be an interrupting cow mooing the entire time of the debate, but I'm sure that one of the biggest things his advisors told him was not to do that, and for once, I guess he listened. Um, but the fact that he didn't answer one single question with a straight answer that stayed on topic 100% of the time for 2 minutes, and the moderators didn't say anything, meant he wasn't thrown at all. I know the president's lawyer, Bob Barr, probably played Trump in debate prep, but how do you prepare for a guy who refuses to engage with any subject for more than 30 seconds and constantly spews prepared talking points regardless of relevance? Seeing people once again talking about Biden too old also makes me frustrated for 2 reasons. One, I highly expected any incumbent, especially one who hasn't had any experience condensing answers in 2 minutes since 2020, to who is also notoriously bad at public speaking. Wow, I crashed that fence. Don't give political speeches about democracy a drive, folks. Um, let's get out of this ditch here. But yeah, this incumbent that we currently have is already not the greatest at public speaking. Like, he has acknowledged he does not have Obama's soaring rhetoric. And he is an older person, which aggravates his stutter. Again, like anybody would have a hard time getting back into debating, though. Oh man, I gotta get service probably. But I need to crawl out of this anyway. Obama did terribly in his first debate in 2012 against Romney. But he ended up winning a second term, and now we all remember Romney's second debate gaffe of binders full of women, and that's it when it comes to the debates. This is because, as my old history professor... Oh, oops. Hard to keep track of this trailer. It's for, like, a boat, I think? Oh, come on. I that was so random. Like I had already been stopped and you crashed into me. Come on, let's get out of here. Like I get like people perhaps don't think their lives are getting better. But like that's an existential problem for the Biden campaign that one debate probably wasn't going to fix anyway. And as my old history professor Alan Lichtman from American University said, one debate in the middle of June isn't going to change much if Donald Trump getting convicted of 34 felonies barely moves the needle in terms of polling. Especially when most people um, are getting out of context clips online instead of actually watching the debate, and the people who watch the debates are already highly motivated for their candidates anyway. I mean, I'll acknowledge that, and I'm one of them. I was highly motivated to hope that Biden did a good job, and you know what? Not every day is gonna be a winner. Um, and again, I get why people are worried, but worrying about everything and panicking about nothing has been how I've gotten through the past 8 years, though I've gotten plenty of panic, for sure. At least I don't try to panic about every little political setback. Democracy is too important to change horses midstream like this. Panicking about this specifically with plenty of time left before the election for things to get worse or better, though not enough time for an alternative to merge, I'll get to that later, is not productive. 2, Biden did actually get better as the evening went on, including some choice moments that I wish people would read in the transcript, like Trump farting, which is noted as PH, during his viral but fact-free zinger about Biden beating Medicare to death. That would require many people to, like, read at all. Especially a document that I was told takes 79 minutes to read. It's frighteningly similar to how radio listeners said that Nixon won the debate of 1960 and TV listeners called it for Kennedy. But anyway, I'll helpfully quote my favorites here, even if the lack of delivery in Biden's voice was a problem for our image-obsessed culture. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that there could be a bloodbath. What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler has done some good things. I'd like to know what they are, the good things Hitler's done. That's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy. To the latter point, Trump immediately turned around and said Biden, quote, made up the Charlottesville story and you'll see it's debunked all over the place, while refusing to elaborate with his demented mind what aspect of Charlottesville was debunked exactly. That means the implication is that Biden, that Biden, in 2017, while Trump was president, somehow faked the Charlottesville rally where a woman was run over by a car. And this is the Unite the Right rally, where we have its participants on video saying that Jews will not replace us, and then President Trump on video also saying that they were, quote, very fine people on both sides, in his eternal wink and nudge to white supremacists. He also was allowed to deflect on having told the Proud Boys to, quote, stand back and stand by in a dog whistle rather than stand down. This is terrifying because of an unprecedented level, or I guess Trump would say it unprecedented, level of believe me or your lying eyes that he knows 30% of the country will buy hook, line, and sinker. And in an age of AI, he can definitely get away with disparaging video, but he's done this before and in the same debate for January 6th. He's expecting the rest of us to ignore that or think that verifiably real video that the January 6th terrorists took with their own frickin' phones showing them attacking police and wrecking the Capitol of the United States of America is fake news. That the evidence gathered over months by the Select Committee isn't overwhelming in exposing his plot to overthrow the election because he was a sore loser. Also, because the other guy is 3 years older than him and doesn't look as healthy on TV, despite having a far better diet and exercise regimen and working far harder than Trump ever did for the American people and not for whatever vendetta Trump had on Twitter that morning and whatever he was watching on Fox News. Lastly, the pundit circus the next morning helped him out while quietly shifting news that Trump was going to reshape the Republican platform in his image, or the Supreme Court essentially declaring itself the sole judge of everything in this country. This also continues to allow Trump to make up batshit policies like getting rid of all taxes on tips, which would only benefit employers, as they're not required to give you full payment if there's no taxes, which, if I recall correctly. But laws may vary in Nevada. Anyway, it's a desperate ploy to appeal to Latino workers that he will turn around and their communities have military. Police come and raid people. But anyway, he also wants to shift our entire income stream to a tariff regime, which would increase the price of everything by at least 10%. Double the prices of electric cars when we need them for the green transition. Though to be fair, Biden is being strange about this as well, due to the one partisan thing left, our Cold War fears with China. It also could catapult a man into office, all of this debate brouhaha, who has never cared or been ready to face sudden crises like how he handled COVID, or will likely not fulfill his treaty obligations to, wow, I've already lost $5,000 this run on fines. Fun. Perhaps this wasn't the best game to go on a soapbox about, but, well, again, it's hard to get a functioning country with great infrastructure, and Biden is doing some great things on that. Anyway, Trump would not follow treaty obligations that we have with the Philippines if China attacks over one ship in the South China Sea. That's a whole other thing. Or let Europe fall into a potential war with Russia, which could go nuclear. And then Europe is a radioactive traitor. I don't think these are things that are likely to happen. Could happen at all because America is asleep at the wheel. Just like I kind of was distracted while driving this truck. Oops. Is a real problem for global security. And for our global supply chains. And again, the tariffs could lead to a trade war with Europe. Which would be very bad and possibly cause a depression. If you want to see a bad economy, Republicans, I guess this is your chance. Except for your rich cronies. Anyway. Thanks to Mitch McConnell's slimy brinkmanship, Trump will also practically have total control of an appointed House of Lords in the Supreme Court due to how many conservative justices he stacked on it, and the fact of it being pretty much impossible for Congress to impeach anyone for anything serious, with that power having been diluted by years of wolf crying. I considered waiting to livestream this on Monday to take the immunity ruling by the Supreme Court into account, which to clarify is about whether Trump is immune to prosecution for egging on an insurrection. But I have a gaming news stream that night, and Tuesday is too close to my Wednesday trip in Philadelphia, which I desperately need, as I've never been, and I'm so excited to recharge my American spirit and my love of American history. I mean, I've always loved American history, but it's been hard just seeing how much of this country was built on lies. And I want to feel good about our founding symbols like the Constitution and the Liberty Bell and the Declaration of Independence and our historical sites. But anyway, I doubt that the Supreme Court will give him the ability to send in 6. I bet that the immunity ruling will be very mealy-mouthed in a way that will safeguard the Supreme Court's precious legitimacy that's been in tatters, while also giving a boot to Trump, which is ridiculous, but that's just how things are right now in the Supreme Court. This is why elections matter. This is why we have to vote for more Democrats, possibly on a New Deal like timescale for 20 years to finally stick out the MAGA from this country legally through elections once and for all. This isn't going to be a fight that ends in 2024, nor is it going to be an easy one, even if we do re-elect President Biden or find an alternative. But uh, getting on with the Supreme Court, their latest move that has me more worried than the immunity ruling is them throwing out the Chevron deference, which generally is the principle that federal administrators whose job it is to execute the laws know how to technically do that better than unqualified judges. So say goodbye to interstate regulation of smog and clean drinking water unless we re-elect Joe Biden with a wider House majority and keep the Senate, which is doable and could give him reverse coattails. I'll get to that later, though, as I want to continue talking about the environment as I use electricity for AC in a city overwhelmed by the worst heat wave in recorded history, it feels like, and with my computer continuing to spew digital CO2 gases in this big ol' honkin' truck that delivers a bunch of our goods that are not as in stock anymore in stores. Yikes. The environment that is currently being ruined by big corporations while everyone's arguing about one debate performance. I can't believe you, Exxon. Shame on you. Can't just sit comfortably on your billions and transition to green energy already, huh? Can you? Do you have to make a profit every quarter? Are you just that blinded by the myth of infinite growth? You just bought Guyana's entire offshore oil fields that Venezuela also wants to annex for $53 billion. Compare that to $1 billion of green energy investment and $15 billion on unproven carbon capture technology that sometimes you and your buddies actually use to frack for more oil. Because what are you doing? Stop, you're killing the planet for your bonuses. But I guess the only ones who are getting off this planet are the ones who fucked it up in the first place. There's no other way to describe that. We plebs were never meant to colonize Mars. Elon Musk will, and then his AI girlfriend will love him and indulge special interest in the letter X for the rest of his days. Just because he's autistic too does not mean I have to like him. But because I am in this rest area, I am going to rest. Let's see carefully. Okay, let's rest. Because my rest meter is almost all the way blue, which would be bad. Okay, let's get out of here then. Oh, vehicle malfunction. Elon Musk would know something about that for sure. He just loves to have his rockets not work. Same with Boeing and their space spots that NASA had them build for some reason when their planes don't work. But anyway. People do come together to tackle existential issues. So, if a Biden administration is elected, I highly expect that with the 4 years that he has of not having to face the electorate, he can then declare a war on climate change, like how LBJ's war on poverty gave us Medicare and Medicaid, then got overshadowed by his unpopularity with the Vietnam War. Oops, darn it. That is one very sturdy pole. Anyway, we're at 1 degree Celsius now of climate change after nearly 200 unabated years of changes. 1.5 degrees C of climate change is likely happening because like the changes that we would need to make could happen, but there's just not the political will there. We're still not too late to prevent 2, though. At 2, 99.9% of coral reefs are gone, destabilizing the ecosystems there. 2 makes 3 more likely. At 3, the Amazon rainforest turns into grassland, which releases a ton of carbon from burned trees, which leads to 3.7 and the collapse of the entire Siberian permafrost. Though the old gal might stick around and not unleash the stored carbon from the bodies of dead woolly mammoths and the viruses we have no immunity to until 6 degrees of warming. Every degree more of warming compounds the possibility of further runaway warming and hurts the planet that much more in ways that we may not be able to predict. So it's important to have competent, if not perfect, government that actually cares about slowing warming now while we still can. Contrast with Trump's drill baby drill policy, which he wants to be a dictator for one day, quote unquote, in order to do that and secure the border, in his words. We messed up, and we're going to lose a lot of animals and suffer a lot, but the alternative is extinction. This is such an important issue to me because 8-year-old me cried after the 2000 election. I predicted Florida going to Bush, but I thought Nader would get an electoral vote as well, and I indicated that by drawing a little colored green pencil slash across the state. And I also thought that Gore would win New Hampshire. I should have worked. I don't know why Gore lost New Hampshire. Florida wouldn't have mattered if New Hampshire was in the Democratic column like it had been for most elections. But anyway, the thing that made me cry the most was that Gore said he would save the whales and I wasn't able to go to my 5th grade whale watch. Meanwhile, Biden has, invested $783 billion in domestic energy security and climate change, including resiliency from drought in western states, a green bank, more money for NOAA, and so much more. All of it paid for by taxes on the rich, without adding to the deficit. All the gains we have made in green energy were because of Obama's $92 billion in green energy funds in 2009. I would have focused less in the Inflation Reduction Act on less batteries for vehicles that carry more people, like planes and trains and ships, instead of electric cars. Though I acknowledge that battery technology in planes in particular is a bit of a hard sell. There's also green fuels. Like, there's more things than just electric cars. And cars are wasteful, and we've become addicted to cars as a society. It's so annoying feeling trapped on particular islands in cities and between. Oh, okay. Please pull in for a vehicle inspection. Okay, got it. And again, a lot of our infrastructure should be handled more by train rather than truck. But trucks are vitally important, and yet our highways are crumbling. That's what the infrastructure bill that was passed bipartisanly was for. I'm just trying to keep this truck from tailgating me. Let's see. I probably have to go into this way station here. So I gotta keep my eyes on the road for this. um, let's see. Okay. Okay, here we go. Ooh. All right. Well, I guess I can skip this line, even though that probably would be illegal in real life. And has caused a malfunction. Fun. Um, all right, let's get the inspection done. Okay, well. Okay, let's calculate the route to. I hope our job site. Let me just double check here. I don't know why I'm getting a double cursor here for some reason, but, well, here it is then. And this music is a bop. Anyway, let's get back to it. Now I have a lot more appreciation for truckers because the video gamified version of this job has its perils. Again, I don't know how people do this for a living and like have families and be able to afford a house and things like that. I don't know how the train operators on the trains that are like a mile and a half long that are manning solo didn't have chemical spills sooner than in East Palestine. Trump's whole thing is Trump's whole thing is Trump's whole thing is Trump's whole going to take advantage of the problem by what is going on with my audio? Is I'm just gonna take advantage of the problem by showing up and giving a flashy press conference, and then just not doing any of that. I don't understand why people are thinking that he would actually be better for infrastructure than President Biden when that has been proven not to be the case. Anyway. Okay, I think what's happening here is that my microphone has been switched out, and I can't seem to change any of that. So if the rest of the stream is messed up by that, then I'm sorry. Also, it appears the police have come to town. Alright, let's see. Yo, I gotta get to my job, buddy, so I'm gonna have to go around you. Sorry. Okay. Oh, that's a bad accident. I'm sorry about that. Ugh. Right then. Well, I'm just gonna plow ahead and hope that the stream isn't a technical disaster. There's just not a lot of scenarios where I can see things going well if Biden isn't at the helm of the infrastructure projects that he started. Many of them that are beneficial and provide good green jobs to distressed communities of black and brown folks who otherwise are drifting to Trump despite him being a raging racist because they haven't felt their lives get better economically yet. And speaking of the yet, there are just not a lot of scenarios either in which swapping out a candidate mid-campaign... Oh, crud. So I should probably swap out my brain at this rate. When it comes to fake driving. Or attacking an incumbent candidate during the primary season or after has never really gone well in modern times. Lyndon V. Johnson stepped down in 1968 due to his handling of the Vietnam War. Then there was the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, who was the young and popular alternative that same year. And then there was a brokered convention in which his vice president, Hubert H. Humphrey, who was slated to win anyway, because most party contests were not primaries back then, was nominated, that led to the Chicago riots and caused a bunch of confusion in the party that Richard Nixon took advantage of. Stop with the crashing into me. I have a very wide machine here. Can't you see? Anyway, Richard Nixon took advantage of the Democrats being in disarray to win by courting evangelical Christians fearful of new religious movements and the sexual revolution, as well as racists disillusioned by the Democrats about face on civil rights for black people. It's called the Southern Strategy that Republicans have stuck to since. Meanwhile, Ronald Reagan's 1976 primary run weakened Gerald Ford to be defeated by Jimmy Carter. Then Ted Kennedy in turn weakened Carter in 1980, only to be brought down himself by the Chappaquiddick scandal, and Carter ended up losing to Reagan. Funny story how history works, isn't it? Look, the best time for an incumbent to drop out is the moment they run for office, or at least after the midterms, so that they can give themselves plenty of time to be a lame duck. Even that has its problems, however. In 1848, James K. Polk was like, "Why run again? I've already conquered half of Mexico," and then pieced out to let a succession of weak and unpopular presidents let the resulting tensions over the expansion of slavery into these new territories parboil the tensions that eventually led to the Civil War. And hopefully the only one that we have, please. Thank you very much. But that rarely happens for successful incumbents. And despite his persistent unpopularity, the popularity ceiling caused by high polarization, the fragmentation of our information environment that has made accomplishments like his difficult to communicate, and the laughably lazy and chaotic Congress the Republicans created in the midterms, Biden has been one of the most legislatively successful presidents in recent history. He has also repeatedly stated his hopes of an FDR-like record. With the midterm resulting in a much smaller Republican win than expected, and the Senate being retaken by Democrats in 2022, he decided to give a second term a shot. If something happens between now and the convention in August, which is probably the earliest that any decision could be made, the most natural successor would be Kamala Harris. Yet for how much she's been improving in her consistent focus on abortion and other issues near and dear to her heart, she hasn't gotten a lot of press compared to her early gaffes like "Don't come here." There's racial and gender bias to contend with, and she has at best 4 months to spin up her own campaign. Meanwhile, a brokered convention where other Democratic candidates, who are more naturally ready for 2028, like Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom, would emerge would be chaotic. Give whoever wins in August even less time and energy to campaign, possibly spark 1968-like protests, and lead into another Democrats in disarray narrative that Republicans can then take advantage of. Go on and tell me they won't. I'll wait. Sure, other countries can spin up campaigns faster than that, as one person pointed out to me on Reddit. But I don't want to have to leverage my 1/8 Irish citizenship, or 1/8 Irish heritage, to get dual citizenship in a functioning country because we tried to change horses midstream, as FDR would say. The best case scenario for me is if he isn't up for all 4 years of a second term, Biden steps down exactly 2 years through his term. Why? So Kamala can gain valuable experience in her own first half term. And she can also then, per a small quirk of the 22nd Amendment, that was passed after FDR's 4 terms in office. That last one can't be called much of a term, though, since he got sworn in January 1945 and died that April. This could allow her to theoretically be in power for 10 years, even though that's very difficult to do, which sounds pretty good to me. This loophole, by the way, also allowed Lyndon Johnson to actually run again in 1968 if he'd wanted, because he served less than a year of John F. Kennedy's first term, and would have gotten his own second term if Vietnam hadn't happened. So he would have been like president from 1963 to 1973, and that would have totally been fine by the 22nd Amendment. My main fear, leaving all that aside, though, is that the health of one old white man, no matter how well-intentioned or healthy, should not have to be the last barrier between democracy and authoritarianism. Even though advisors shielding healthcare complications is nothing new, look at FDR's polio and Ronald Reagan's Alzheimer's. But Joe Biden is that last barrier, unfortunately. I'm sorry about this. I understand why people criticize President Biden before the debate. Again, I understand the increased worry about his age now, and I share much of that criticism, as I have said earlier and throughout the stream. However, he's doing the best he can, juggling several impossible situations while on a schedule of non-stop flights and train trips that we all would collapse from. Oh, oh dear. That was close. I almost missed the exit there. Um, but anyway, all the while trying to represent people a quarter of his age, who he just can't connect with the same way. If he does even more poorly in the second debate, then that would be the time to figure out how to lean on Kamala. But for now, can Democrats just give him some time to get his footing back? I'm sorry if that's not fashionable to say, but America is a place where the unfashionable thing is not only allowed, but encouraged to be said. At least for now. People who are as obsessive about the history of the presidency as I am as a young autistic kid, to the point of literally having elections settled with lightsaber duels in an alternate America. Darth Maul won 3 terms in the 1880s naturally, and listing all the biggest losers of the presidential elections in a book I wrote when I was 10 years old, and might still do, tend to view historical presidencies in a more anodyne way anyway, taking the good with the bad. That is, unless they're god-awful, like Andrew Jackson telling the Supreme Court, "You and what army?" when they ruled against him and he sent Native Americans on the Trail of Tears. Or Nixon's Watergate scandal and his illegal bombardments of Laos and Cambodia. Though take that away and his legacy is more positive. Thank him for the EPA that the Supreme Court is gutting, for instance. If there wasn't a recently convicted 34-time felon who was running to keep himself out of prison and become a dictator, i.e. if the Republican candidate was perhaps someone normal like Larry Hogan of Maryland, who I thought did a good job during COVID, at least as governor of Maryland, then I would definitely not want to stick with Biden. Because it is kind of ridiculous that this is how we have to act. That we have to hold our noses once again. Oh, come on. Where? I went into the wrong area, didn't I? And that's not even a rest area, even though it says motel. I don't understand. Oh no. Oh no, I'm not getting out of here for a second. Oh no. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Get me out of here. Reverse, please. Thank you. I don't know what was the holdup there, but I'm just going to try and sneak around these other vehicles and then get into the gas station, because I need that. For sure. Well, and I also need service, but I'll do that after the job, because I'm pretty sure I'm close to... Oh, come on! Stupid wide trailer. It's dummy thick. And it goes clap. Oh, okay, you go then. Sorry about the, sidelining you there, little car. I hope nobody's hurt in there. Come on, you can get out. I'm moving forward so you can get out. Oh no. Okay. Alright, well that resolves it. Let's get some gas already. Thank you. Alright, refueling. Oh, I have to hold it, I forgot. I am so damaged right now. I absolutely should have done a different game if I wanted a calmer experience, though. I guess it's kind of easy to think that that these things would be a little calmer when you've done them on your Steam Deck for a while. This is my first real time seriously playing the game on my new Mac Mini, though. So, let's get out of here somehow. I also apologize if there ends up being no sound. I'm still figuring out how a lot of this works on my new computer. In any event, please don't give me a fine. Please don't give me a fine. Thank you. Alright. Stoplights can be really annoying in this game. Again, the fact of the matter is that there is a 34-time convicted felon running who thinks that his handpicked judges will come to his defense, and it seems like they have. Look at Eileen Cannon in Florida, for instance, or the Supreme Court possibly giving him some form of immunity. Maybe they just want to become oligarchs like they've always wanted to. Or maybe it'll be like Judge Dredd, with Samuel Alito busting down states wearing an upside-down flag and blaming the imprisonment of prominent Democrats on his wife. To paraphrase the Stallone version, she betrayed the law! Law! Okay, that was kind of silly, but I needed to break that tension, and we need to put out the immediate fire of Project 2025. Read at least part of it if you do read anything anymore, and share it with everyone you know. It's terrifying, and I'm not sure I could cover everything horrible about it in 100 live streams, but maybe I'll try one day. Another thing to consider is that abortion is the #1 issue that will destroy the Republicans this summer, as it was the reason that their red wave was blunted. While Biden will codify Roe if he has the chance. The economy is improving, and a large driver of that is that people were resilient on spending on experiences and things after such a long lockdown. And as part of Biden's counterpoint in when it came to inflation at the beginning. But now that inflation has eaten into COVID savings and people are not spending as much, prices everywhere will start to be cut for the summer. Though there might need to be further federal regulation on things like housing. Say, limiting the amount of houses that a corporation can buy and turn into short-term rentals to try to keep the housing supply a little bit more open. Hopefully all of this will improve the vibes economy while Biden's green jobs start to roll out. Immigration is concerning, and I don't like Biden's new border restrictions, but he just protected undocumented spouses who have lived in this country for at least 10 years. Meanwhile, Trump destroyed the reasonable border bill for political gain, while Biden's again trying to get something constructive done in. And only about 4% of people when polled actually state that foreign policy is their #1 concern. Trust me, I've canvassed locally. Most people care about their own bottom line and do not pay attention to the world. Not because they're callous, but because life is hard and Washington feels impossible. So while Biden tells people that he sees their pain and we need to combine these points in order to persuade people that Biden has affected these issues for the better but needs a second term to finish the work he started, minority viewpoints are being magnified by the internet, and violent images are sent to children while adults engaged in Anchor Olympics. I don't buy many of the broadest claims of the student protesters, and I especially do not support people like the Columbia protesters, trapping a maintenance worker with them and threatening to beat him up, or those who just vandalize statues outside of the White House that cost $15 million to clean up. Most of the anger here, though, is rooted in many people's lived truths, and I also believe that Biden has been bafflingly dense and overcautious about how to use America's leverage in the world, though trying his best to get a sustainable ceasefire in exchange for the lives of human beings who were kidnapped by terrorists. So much damage to my trailer. I hope I'll make it okay. Trump called Biden practically a Palestinian for slowing down some arms shipments and not letting Israel, quote, finish the job. So keep that in mind if you support an end to the humanitarian suffering in Gaza. However, I will not criticize an Arab American in Dearborn deciding not to vote for Biden because they lost someone. I lost someone in 9/11, and my anger at Bush is searing because of his orders to directly kill 100,000 people in 2 wars of adventure in Afghanistan and Iraq, built on lies and putting friends of mine at risk for several tours for nothing. Trump's selling out of the Afghan government to the Taliban and Biden's terrible evacuation logistics were just the cherry on top of that pile. Bush should never be painting in Texas. He should be in The Hague. So should Netanyahu, sharing a cell with Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, who literally said he doesn't care how many people he loses, because it helps him politically. But maybe people in swing states who do not have family in Gaza should reconsider staying home or voting for a third party. Like in DC, Republicans are a rare bird, so as Melania would say, I don't really care, do you? Michigan is a different story. I can say with 100% confidence, even though the Electoral College was originally designed for wise men to choose the president because the framers thought we were stupid, it still exists, and it would take a total of 40,000 people, less than the max capacity of National Stadium, in 3 states to lead to a Grover Cleveland-like non-consecutive second presidential term for the most unhinged president in history. A second president, Trump would decide to use the National Guard to the National Guards of red states to literally invade blue states and enforce a Handmaid's Tale style nightmare for women. Okay, what is going on here? Let me just troubleshoot this for sure. I don't know what's going on with this either. Okay, let's see. Alright, well, let me just make sure that, thank you for the follow, I appreciate that. I'm just making sure there's no technical issues here for 1 second. Thank you for coming to see the headquarters of Halltacular LLC as well. Let me minimize that. Okay, so alright, what is going on with the sound here? I'm gonna need to turn off my mic for a second to make sure that I'm actually getting things through. Or maybe not. You know what? Maybe not. If you're still enjoying this. Alright. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I actually, now I know what to double check for. Making sure that sound is actually routed appropriately. Or, you know what? Now my cursor's captured, so I can't do anything. Let's just continue then. Alright. Let's see, where was I? Oh, well, at the really good part. A second President Trump would decide to use the National Guards of red states to literally invade blue states and enforce a Handmaid's Tale-style nightmare for women, shoot protesters in cities he already thinks are rat holes that often are majority black, which his own defense secretary said he wanted to do during the George Floyd protests, and deport pro-Palestinian protesters, and empower our police to do whatever they want to 11 million people, who are part of the fabric of this country and whose work was horribly compensated and done in brutal weather, but are a crucial part of the reason we rebounded from the pandemic with any fruits and vegetables in any season we wanted at all, and should have union protections. By the way, $99 for 2 bottles of sriracha on Amazon is the canary in the climate change coal mine for me. But do you think he'll have a process for any of this like he did for the Muslim ban or the family separation policy? No. He'll just have ICE goons grab anyone brown they don't like. In addition, Trump wants to fire the head of every department of the executive branch of the government that doesn't agree with him, as recently revealed in a blacklist of prominent federal employees being secretly compiled by the, quote, American Accountability Foundation. Continue to cut taxes for the wealthy and corporations, including also giving them the policies they want if they give him $1 billion from the oil and gas industry, so that they can eat lavishly in their bunkers while the rest of the world burns, I guess. He also wants to restrict the right to exist in public of trans people like me by going after harmless drag shows, making it harder to get health care of the kind that I might want, such as HRT, than it already is by leaving it up to the states, yet federally legislating the supposed existence of 2 genders, which is also an important reason I'm sticking with Biden. And in general, wants to give people 2 choices, loyalty to him or bullying. He's so desperate to stay out of prison, too, that he'll lash out like a cornered animal. If he wins, that's with the military. If not, MAGA militias will do his dirty work for him. I seem to remember another document that listed grievances against a king that is about to have its birthday in a few days. Then give me liberty or give me death if you violate that. For I, D.C. Shepherd, want to be like Alexander Hamilton, who signed the Federalist Papers that promoted the Constitution as Publius, because otherwise anti-federalists might have tarred and feathered him. To paraphrase Fallout, mob never changes. I'm intending to give free live-streamed lectures on the Constitution with some Socratic method and a period of open, constructive discussion on my TikTok and YouTube at History Flights Productions and the National Mall. I'll try to upload clips where I can to Instagram, but I mainly use that to message people, so apologies if that's inconsistent on that platform. Even though it'll be hotter than hell, it's hot democracy summer and I want to exercise more anyway. The Constitution, though she may be battered, there is life in this old dog yet. A quote that I completely made up for rhetorical effect and was not made by my grandfather. And if I had claimed that, that would be disinformation. However, you can see how priming works now. This is why you must always take anyone's words as a starting point and do your own research from there. Speaking of which, AI's threat is real, but it's simply a tool. And like any other tool, the risks will come from people operating it, not AGI emerging Skynet-like yet. The possibility of the latter has been exaggerated for political gain and regulatory capture by the deranged cults of Sam Altman and Elon Musk. So autocorrect on steroids is probably not going to end the world. And we don't need to worry about fantastical perpetual safety machines that we need to build. But we also do need to be careful about how much disinformation there will be during this election. It's so easy and cheap to do that now with AI, despite the high environmental costs of such. It can make it at a rapid rate, too. And with people gut reacting in social media bubbles already being a problem, AI misinformation and clipping pieces of debates is going to be a problem for at least this election cycle. Until I predict the AI bubble popping in 2026, but that's a whole other thing. Anyway, like any good scholar of the Constitution, or any subject really, I will tell you where you can read what I'm saying for yourself. Once I upload this video to YouTube, I will do my best to link sources for everything that I've said. Meta-analysis, I fear, is a skill that people are losing in favor of just accepting the first thing they see on TikTok that has an emotional label. And yet I'm very confident in all of you to be able to really ask deeper questions of anything you read, even or especially if you agree with it. So if you have a different interpretation of things, I do welcome constructive criticism. And I also welcome good supportive feedback, because this is a contrarian position, and I hope that everyone who is coming out to support me during this live stream will continue to find my content engaging as we lead up to possibly the most important election of our lifetimes. I know it feels like every one of these feels important, but that's because we need to be able to have the votes to make long-term change, and that's probably going to be an even longer live stream, really getting into all the details of all the different democracy proposals. Again, hopefully with no technical issues or anything like that. But I have created what I'm calling the 10 Democracy Commandments, based after the 10 Dual Commandments from Hamilton. And I'm not even going to try to sing them while also controlling this truck. So you'll have to bear with me for a second. Electoral College demand its redaction. If the National Popular Vote Compact works, no need for further action. If they don't abolish the filibuster at Senator 52nd, it was never in the Constitution for one sentence. Have your Supreme Court justices negotiate to retire in peace under Biden, or negotiate SEAL Team 6. This is commonplace, especially between fascists. Most who criticize a dictator die as jackboots. Okay, gonna try not to smash an entire gas station there. There we go. If they don't want it, that's alright. Congress can jurisdiction strip abortion appeals from ever being heard by them on site. Article 3, Section 2. If you limit them in advance, they'll gain some civility. Then they turn around and women's health care will have reliability. Quick, before the money spigots fly, demand Congress end dark money by and by. Leave a note for President Trump if he wins that after where we've been. He can try being the first president to run the country from prison. Though be careful, if the Republicans win the House and Senate, they want to pass a law to transfer state crimes to federal court for him to pardon himself. Well, really to give the president the ability to do that and then pardon himself. The Constitution definitely has a lot of holes. So we need to make many of these longer-term reforms after we put out the immediate fire. It feels like what people are doing is they're trying to diagnose the source of a fire while the building is on fire. It's not that okay. Let me just double check for the billionth time that everything is fine. Let me see how the live is going on my phone, I think. Or maybe not. Alright. Well, I probably was about getting to the end of my points anyway. And, I don't know if continuing after that... Oh, $600 fine for the way station. Oh, whatever. Well, we'll certainly see if that, ends up, bankrupting me later. But I'm hoping that this job will help. Anyway, okay, so... In your head, confess your own sins, then look at your neighbor and see them as human when you finally face your opponent. I.e., don't think of yourself as better than everybody else just because of your politics. We're all just trying to figure out how to best survive this poly-crisis. Just saying. Our last chance to register people to vote. Send in your postcards with Read Voting Rights Project, hosted by the Unitarian Universalists of All Souls Church, which was a key site of the civil rights movement in Washington, D.C. Look Trump in the eye, aim no higher, then vote him out once and for all. Summon all the courage you require, and if he tries to be a dictator, then National Guard or no, our words will catch fire. So in conclusion, I deeply, deeply feel so much of the pain in this world. Just because President Biden is the only competent person running for office right now doesn't mean I like it. But our power doesn't end at the ballot box. Once he's in for 4 boring years and America isn't Hungary, then we can not just save democracy, but fix it together. Thank you all. Let me just save my progress here. Yep, and then quit. Alright, yep, that means that the audio was working. Cool, great. Alright, let's end the live now. Thank you so much to everybody who came out and supported me here. And, you all have a good rest of your evening. I hope that democracy will continue to survive, and I appreciate your support in my efforts to... yeah. In my efforts to get this to the finish line. To get America across the finish line, really. You have a good one. Bye.